Today on Network Africa, violence in Central African Republic as 11 people are killed, at least 14 others missing in recent clashes. Over in Somalia, Al-Shabaab attacks a group of Christians in the town of Mandera, northeast of Kenya. Zambia's main opposition leader, Hakainde Hichilema, spends a night in jail and awaits being charged with sedition. Let's begin Network Africa. Hello everyone, I am Amarachi Ubani. Clashes over the murder of an army officer has left at least 11 people killed in the Central African Republic. Fighting erupted in Bangui, a PK5 neighborhood, a Muslim enclave in the majority Christian nation's capital, after Commander Marcel Mobekia, a former aide to ex-President Catherine Samba Panza, was shot dead on Tuesday. Central African Republic has been plagued by inter-religious violence since 2013, when mainly Muslim Seleka fighters seized power, prompting reprisals from Christian militias known as anti-Balaka. Fighting between armed groups also killed at least 6 civilians in a northwestern province last week, where unidentified assailants fired on UN peacekeepers, injuring one of them. And despite the February election, widely touted as a step towards reconciliation, rebels and militia fighters still stalk most of the country outside of the capital, and clashes have been frequent in those places. This week's fighting is a setback for the PK5 neighborhood. It's been mostly peaceful ever since Pope Francis visited in November last year and called on the people to end the cycle of violence. Before that, anti-Balaka fighters had laid siege on the area and prevented Muslims from leaving. Meanwhile, Somalia's Al-Shabaab group has attacked a Christian community in the northeast of Kenya, killing 6 people there. Police say they reportedly used grenades and guns on a residential block in the town of Mandera. They believe that the attack happened as planned and was aimed at Christians in the town. It seems the aim was to send a message that Al-Shabaab does not want Christians in the community. Mandera County Commissioner Frederick Shiswa said the militants had also targeted a telecommunications site, but this was done to divert the attention of the security forces from the actual attack. Protests have continued in Ethiopia, but they've taken a new turn. The government says at least 10 companies are now being targeted by the protesters. These companies are owned by foreigners. Remember, the protest turned really violent after more than 50 people were killed in the Oromia region on Sunday during a religious festival that was supposed to be peaceful but turned political when people started chanting anti-government slogans and pushing up against security forces. The government believes those instigating the protests are either terrorists or, as they've called them, evil forces. That message was reiterated by the country's information minister, who said the damage was being done by organized criminals and not those protesting against the government. VOA's Salim Solomon joins us now from Washington. Salim, it's great to have you again on Network Africa.
Thanks for having me again.
The other day, you spoke a lot about the anger that most people have against the government, but why are the protesters now taking out their anger on foreign firms?
Well, the protesters haven't been really, acting on these farms now. But of course, the government is saying that the property of at least 10 companies have been targeting, including foreign-owned businesses. But I mean, just to give you a little bit of understanding of what's going on is farmers feel left out of development plans that the government has crafted, and so these kind of grievances have been documented as early as 2014, when the master plan, commonly known as master plan, has been announced. This development plan would expand the territories of the capital city and encroach into regional boundaries of the Oromia region and other places. And so why foreign businesses are targeted is because farmers feel left out of benefiting from their lands, and foreign companies would come in and build a commercial, farms such as flower farms and other farms. Dutch companies have been attacked. Israeli companies have been attacked. And so this is not a new phenomenon. It's just that now, because the protests have continued, you're seeing more attacks on the foreign companies.
Are there a lot of foreign-owned companies in Ethiopia?
Well, the government has this model to make it very business-friendly for foreign companies to come in and invest. It has a history of opening up, its land. One of the examples I can mention is in the southern part of Ethiopia. The government has been accused of facilitating land grab, because it would sell the lands for foreign companies to come in and build these big commercial farms, like selling flowers and so on. And so, the local communities, small farmers, have been pushed out because either they cannot afford it, or they're not consulted prior to these development plans. And so, there are a lot of business companies, and there's a lot of foreign investment in terms of, in different regions of the country, not just in the south, but in the Oromia region and Amhara region, different regions of the country.
It's interesting that you say that, because Ethiopia does seem to be a closed country. The birr is still much stronger than many of the currencies on the continent.
That's true. And also, foreigners in the country, it has had, not just in terms of business, but also it's had, its tourist industry has been burgeoning, because it has a lot of historical places in the country. But this comes, these kind of protests come the background against like just widespread protests. Just on Tuesday, I wanted to mention a U.S. Citizen was a victim of an attack in a place called Holota, which is a couple of miles away from